Thank you and welcome to the final day of Talent Connect 2014. It just flies by, and you know, when I got given the 9 a.m. slot on a Wednesday with a talk that contained the term planning in the title, I wondered what the turnout would be, so it's great to see you all here, thank you. And I figure if you're the people who are turning up to a 9 a.m. session on planning, you must be truly committed to the art of talent acquisition and recruiting, so that's great. How many people have started 2015 planning yet? Okay, great, so it's a live discussion. How many people are having a robust fact-fueled discussion as part of 2015 planning? Yeah, a subset, right? So every year we do this readout of new research and analysis on what's happening on LinkedIn, how recruiters are using the platform, how candidates are using the platform. This year we wanted to add a couple twists to make it even more actionable. And the first is to tie it into planning conversations. What are we talking about with our stakeholders? How are we getting the budgets we need? How are we making the case for new investments and new technologies? And also to bring in one of our esteemed clients who I'm going to introduce now, Eileen Raymond from KPMG. And we're going to get her take on some of these trends, how she's thinking about them, how her organization is building their 2015 plan to incorporate and take advantage of these trends in the marketplace. So today we're going to run through some data. This is, for the first time, both survey data from around the world, where we've asked recruiters from a range of companies, a range of industries and geographies what trends they're seeing, how they're approaching their future planning. And we've also done some data mining and found some things out, particularly around candidates and how they're using the platform. At the end of each trend, we're going to share some ideas for how you might build that into your planning. And then we want to move pretty quickly into the discussion. So really looking forward to a Q&A, and particularly for Eileen, because she is a real practitioner addressing many of these challenges. So here are the 5 themes. And we're going to cover each of these today. I'll let you kind of read through those. So when we reviewed these as a team, we saw no major surprises, but some really helpful and clear substantiation of major trends. And I'll go through each of these in more detail, but for example, mobile is really here to stay. And you'll see the data shows that this was not a fad. This is not something that people dabbled in and moved away from. It's for real on both the candidate side and the investment side. Employer branding, we're seeing real data to substantiate that candidate behavior is making employer branding important. So let's start at the top. I guess the biggest point to feed into your 2015 planning, which is there's growth happening in 2015. And if we look historically at our previous 3 years of survey data, we've asked people each year, are you projecting an increase in hiring volume? That's the blue line. And are you projecting an increase in recruiting budget? That's the black line. And you can see a trend here, right? Budgets have been going down, or at least the percentage of people seeing an increase has been going down. And meanwhile, hiring volume has started to tick up, right? These lines can't diverge for too long until your team gets burned out, right? It gets very busy in there. The good news is, for the first time, we're seeing a significant jump in both these indicators together. So recruiters are planning for and hoping for an increase in budget to take on these hiring challenges. And this is a global trend. So we look across 3 major regions plus Brazil, which is the country outside of these groups that we survey, and we're seeing most regions are projecting an increase. Brazil's flat for reasons you might imagine, macroeconomic, etc. But Europe, APAC, North America, all trending up. And don't take our word for it. I took a look at what the World Bank is predicting, and the global economy is strengthening. And a key point here for the folks in the room is that for the first time in a while, the story is shifting back to high-income economies as a source of growth. I think you're mostly familiar that for the last decade, developing economies, emerging economies have been the growth story, but high-income economies are growing, which means talent the war for talent amongst these skilled workers in developed areas is going to increase. So that's a pretty clear overall story. So how to build this into your planning conversations, how to make use of this. First thing is just to inform your executive team. You know, how well does your executive team know the trends in their core product marketplace? Pretty well, I would guess. How well are they forecasting sales and growth and revenue for next year? Again, I would guess fairly well. Make sure they have the same level of data on what's happening in the talent marketplace. Show them the slide about hiring budgets. Look, everybody is going to be out there next year with more money and more hiring needs, right? We need to be part of this. And LinkedIn data can help. We have a unique view into the talent pools, the supply and demand, and we can give you ways to have that conversation, right? And in the pink area, you can see a note that we actually have an Insights booth set up just out here where my team is distributing and presenting all kinds of data on the screen. They can also print out talent pools in a format that you can take away. And you can see for a specific skill set and geography what's happening with supply and demand, right? And how mobile and dynamic these talent pools are for you to tap into. And the final point is to build your team capability. Something we've heard a lot from clients is that when there's a sudden burst in hiring activity and a sudden burst in headcount in the team, there's not always the other enablers to make sure the team can be successful. And that can be training, that can be tools, it can be technology. So overall, good news story, growth story for 2015. So now moving into some more of the detailed subpoints here. So 2015 is the year of growth. Where is that going to happen? What are the major sources of hires and channels for attracting talent going forward? So we asked recruiters what are the top trends that they think are long-lasting in the industry? What stuff is really here to stay that they're working towards? And top three here, you can see social and professional networks, employer branding, and passive candidate sourcing. And we don't have a time series here, but I can tell you these are somewhat consistent. On the first one, when we talk about source of hire for quality hires, social professional networks are here to stay. And obviously, we're enthusiastic about seeing this. It seems now that there's really these four channels which are complementary, right? So job boards for inbound active candidates, social professional networks for the more holistic engagement of professionals, staffing still in the mix, and referrals, right? So four quite distinct established sources there. And we can actually unpack that and look at both quantity of hire on the horizontal axis and quality hires in key positions in the vertical axis. And you can see in the top right here, there's a few external sources that strictly dominate the chart, right? They're giving both more volume and more quality than anything else. And these are, as we just discussed, job boards, social, professional networks, and also the career website. And when we kind of kick this around in the team and realize that what ties these three together is their online destinations that are career-centric. So, right, so if you look at what else is on the chart that doesn't feature in that top quadrant, general social media, right? We're seeing fewer people attribute value to general sites, general audiences of people just doing whatever, consuming media, et cetera. There's a clear shift here towards finding audiences, finding eyeballs on the web where there's a clear intent to engage with career materials, right? And both inbound in the sense of jobs and in a more holistic sense on the professional networks. And in terms of our platform, just a quick reminder, we're still growing, right? And it's fantastic to see that as we have scaled, we in fact, the curve is straight, maybe even slightly upward, and that's on the member side. Jobs are also scaling, right? And what this means is that the two-sided ecosystem of LinkedIn is becoming ever more attractive and powerful for both members and for jobs. And the other great point is that the kinds of members we're getting are diversifying. So we're getting a greater variety of skill sets, a greater variety of professions, a greater variety of geographies. And I always say to people, if you had trouble filling a rec last year using the LinkedIn a member talent pool, then check again, right? Because in a year's time, it's amazing how many industries go from 0 relevant candidates to a really meaningful number, just because the scale is continually increasing. And to give you a sense of the deltas here, we've got 75 million new members in the past 12 months. So again, maybe one of those is, we talked yesterday about taking 3 billion potentials and finding the one hire. Maybe that one hire joined LinkedIn in the last 12 months. So in terms of what to do with this insight, these are all digital channels, and I have a lot of conversations as the leader of analytics and insights about ROI and about tracking. So having a robust ROI methodology that allows you to compare sources and make a strong case for those investments in your career website and other online media is really critical. And you don't need to get it right first time. Some numbers on the table and some ability to have a fact-based conversation is a great starting point. The next point is to align the experience. So those 3 dots that I spoke about, there's a lot of traffic and a lot of movement of members between those, right? So make sure that the branding people are seeing on LinkedIn is consistent with what's on your career page. Make those a very consistent experience. We talked about career-centric sites, and then I'm going to touch on this again in mobile, but the job text really has to do a lot of work these days. Much more than in the past, where it was a kind of passive description that someone would scan in hard copy form. Now you've got search engines, you've got recommendation engines trying to parse your job and find the terms that will allow them to match it to members or allow it to be found on a search engine. And that includes the title being standardized, it includes the text being containing the right keywords, etc. So there's a lot more of this digital optimization discipline coming into recruiting. Moving on, employer branding. So it's clear that recruiters have adopted the employer brand strategy. This is fantastic. And the data point on the left is extremely compelling for me, that 75% of recruiters are saying that employer brand has a significant impact on hiring. Right? And this is very tangible. This is not just, it seems like a good idea. It seems to help. We feel good about it. This is actually, it helps me hire, right? And 56% are saying it's a top priority for them. What do you think the next 2 bars say? Does employer brand have enough resources? A smaller number agree with that. Is it measured? Much smaller number, right? And in fact, when you talk to people about why isn't it measured, often the answer is, well, we don't have the resources to measure it. So there's a clear mismatch here, right? A majority think it's important, but a minority are getting enough focus and resources to make it real. So how to start having this conversation, how to get resources to make it real. This is a pretty cool analysis where we took a look at what was happening on LinkedIn, comparing jobs as a touch point for people that are hired at your company versus these other more branding type media and experiences. So we took, for every 1 person who viewed a job at your company before being hired, we took a look at the same pool of hires, how many interacted with a different kind of content. And we found that 1.4 people, for every 1 job viewer, 1.4 people were either following the company or viewed a career page, specifically your career page. So there's a clear audience expansion play here. There's a clear story that candidates are doing more stuff than just viewing jobs and applying or responding to emails. They're doing a whole variety of things on LinkedIn. And this is, I think, a really powerful data point that I'd encourage you to use. Furthermore, what else is important about your company's brand on LinkedIn? Your employees, right? It's still a huge amount of LinkedIn traffic is people looking at other people's profiles. Assessing companies, looking at the talent that they might be working with. And we found that 76% of job applicants viewed an employee's profile in the 6 months prior to joining that company. Right? So these profiles matter. They're branding. And your employees are ambassadors. So a few thoughts to leave you with on this one. Firstly, back to that initial slide about the resourcing for employer brand. One way to approach this could be some benchmarking, right? What else are we investing in across the business that we think is important? And how does our investment in talent brand compare to that? How many CEOs say that talent is their top priority, right? All of them. And most would agree that employer brand is a huge part of that. So, let's compare what we're spending on employer brand to what we're spending on HR systems or other branding investments. Second point here is to leverage employees. As we mentioned, profiles really matter, and it's still surprising how many employees of great companies don't have great profiles. So close that gap. And finally, all these content consumption environments, company pages, feeds, career pages, they're only as good as the content that exists. So I think this has come up in many sessions, but the importance of having a systematic content program to populate those feeds is really material. And there's been a lot of talk about collaboration with marketing. This is some great common ground as both teams are trying to figure out content production and content distribution. Mobile. So, I have a mismatch here between, there we go. So mobile is real from the candidate perspective. Job seekers, 64% use LinkedIn on their mobile device. These are people that are looking at roles on LinkedIn. Phenomenal number. I believe it's higher than our overall usage ratio for mobile, and it's clear that you can't ignore it. And the good news is, recruiters are really embracing this. And they're seeing candidate interaction. So this is the percent of recruiters saying that a lot of candidates learn about opportunities on mobile, right? The candidate engagement is there. 70% year-on-year increase in the percent of recruiters saying that they've optimized their career site. This is fantastic, right? A third of teams have now optimized their career site. Same with job postings. And they're seeing applicants. And perhaps for me, this was the most surprising of all the data points. Right? For a long time, there's been this discussion of, well, mobile is important, it's a starting point, but is it a source of applicants? And according to this, our latest 2014 research, the answer is yes, for a third of companies. And the good news is that embracing mobile is easier than ever, right? We've made it much easier on LinkedIn. We distribute jobs in the mobile feed. So by composing a job posting that's scannable, it's engaging, it's concise, it's very easy to get that in people's feed, to their attention via mobile. And as the data point just showed, job seekers are there. 2/3 of them are on mobile, seeing that feed. Thinking about this as an experience is important. This isn't based on the data, but it's based on some internal discussions we've had. Have your hiring managers test the experience end to end. Have them look at a job on a platform or the career site and click through. Try to illustrate how important it is, right? Benchmark it against other things, right? You don't tolerate when you're trying to make a restaurant reservation and it breaks, right? Or it takes you to a site that isn't optimized. Have that same discussion, have that same experiential sharing with your hiring managers, with your executives. And finally, optimizing downstream flows, which ties into that point. The end-to-end experience is what matters here. So those are 4 trends which are long-lasting, in flight. People are acting on them, investing in them today. We also like to do a little bit of forward-looking, future-gazing. We ask people around the world, what's an upcoming trend that matters? Like what's going to happen in the industry? And we saw some really interesting diversity around the world. So this is the top trend that recruiters are pointing to. Belgium, it's about remote workforce, which I think is the first time that's surfaced for us. Super interesting. China, it's going to be about big data. And in some of these European countries, the trend of recruiting becoming like marketing is what they believe in for the future. Having said that, when we rack it up and we look at the largest markets and we rank the trends, we're seeing this consistent theme that improved candidate and job matching is the trend that people really see changing the market. And we're going to be instrumental in this. We're the only platform that has data on candidates and on employers and jobs. And we have those interaction points of the feed, of the search experience where we can match those. And to put it simply, we can match those. We have various algorithms. We have a matching engine that we're investing in continually. And we're delivering jobs to members wherever they are on LinkedIn. And many of you are familiar, I'm sure, with these placements. Over half of our job views are coming now through those recommendations. So you're reaching candidates that were not in a search experience, that were not necessarily aware of or looking at your company. We're surfacing opportunities directly to them. It's also something we have to figure out for mobile, right? The mobile world is much more feed-based. It's gesture-based. People are not typing as much. They want to click through and explore quickly on the phone, and we're making that experience much more seamless. And one thing to share, which, how many people have seen this or are familiar with this? Yes, this is a new feature that we launched, which allows job seekers to understand their fit with a job. And this is often a forgotten part of the equation, right? We talk a lot about getting the right candidates for us as recruiters or hiring managers, but how about guiding job seekers to pick the right job for them, the one that does suit their skills, the one where they would have a very competitive chance of getting the role? And we've seen great feedback on this. It's anecdotally, people love feeling empowered, right? No one wants to apply for a job they can't get. On the flip side, people really feel gratified when they find a role that's a great fit for them. And it allows them to focus their time. And we believe over time, we can make this market much more efficient where you can find the right people, they can find the right jobs, and the matching is much more efficient, right? Fewer better applicants. And finally, some testimonies. We run a lot on data, but it's very gratifying to hear directly from members that hiring managers are seeing more targeted audiences viewing their jobs. The matching is understood and is working from their perspective, and job seekers are loving it. So final thoughts on this. In a world of matching, the machines need to read and understand jobs. They need to read and understand employer branding. So standard titles, keywords, critical, we talked about that. And then this notion of quality, right? So I believe it's an ongoing kind of discussion in the industry, quality versus quantity of applicants. In a matching world, quality becomes critical, and you want to understand, are candidates coming from matching environments, right, where there's intelligence and mechanisms at play to create those matches? How do they compare with untargeted sites? How do they compare with just the volume applicants coming through active sources? And this is something we're working with several companies on to try and understand and figure out how we can really measure that and compare that. Right, so to close, this was I guess a highlights reel and some thoughts for planning. The full data set is coming out, and we release this every year. So it's coming imminently for the US, and then in November, you'll have the Global Trends Report as well. So 3 thoughts to take away. Inspire your team to make these data-driven business cases for investment. 2015 is a year of growth. It's a year of investment. You've got to make sure your whole organization gets this and is aligned behind it. We talked about ROI in a world of online and the shift with recruiting becoming more like marketing. Then this kind of planning discussion has to be driven by data about ROI. And finally, mobile is a question of what do we do and how do we do it, not should we do it. It's not if anymore. Okay, and with that, I'm going to hand over to Eileen. And we're going to hear a little bit about how KPMG is winning in the marketplace.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to thank Luke and LinkedIn for giving me the opportunity to share with you how we've utilized LinkedIn at KPMG. For those of you that are not familiar with KPMG, we're a global firm. We have over 155,000 employees, and in the US, it's about 25,000. We are $6 billion in revenue in the US and $23 billion in revenue globally. My focus is actually US experienced hire recruiting, so that's going to be really the focus of the discussion today. In the US, our client base is incredibly diverse and obviously significant. Some of you may be from our clients in the audience. We appreciate your business. And they're diverse, but at the same time, they have very high expectations as to what and how we deliver for them. Our recruiters are challenged with going out and identifying top talent in the marketplace that not only have the technical expertise, but they have to have the business acumen and deep industry experience. So to find those resources, we have to basically use every avenue possible to identify them. I think you saw yesterday in the presentations that there were quite a few purple squirrels that we get. On top of it, some of the requirements that our folks have to actually find are people that are open to traveling 100% of the time, US citizenship, et cetera. So it is very, very difficult to find the resources that we're looking for. As far as our strategy, so basically social media is a cornerstone of what we do and how we are approaching the marketplace. It's critical that we have a very strong, aggressive ability to attract and engage the marketplace, to make sure that those solutions are integrated, and that, of course, to Luke's point, that we have a measurable capability, what's working for us, what isn't working for us. An example of that is actually Twitter. For us in experienced hire recruiting, Twitter just isn't really where we find our candidates. Do we use it? Yes, but through measurement, we know that that's not really where the area is that we are going to identify the resources we're looking to hire. And really, we found that LinkedIn is quite good, and we've actually leveraged that. And we're maximizing LinkedIn suites of capabilities. This is something that we've embedded into our business. The recruiters love to use the product, which I think is very important to talent managers, that you have to have a team that is obviously capable and excited about using the product. And so you'll see that we've actually utilized a vast majority of what LinkedIn has to offer from a services perspective. We've also, to Luke's point, we have, this past spring, we rolled out a new website. It's mobile. It has mobile capability, but we also integrated it with LinkedIn. You'll see that we have actually the ability for people to look into, go to the website and actually see who of KPMG may be in their network. This has been a very helpful and effective use of the integration of LinkedIn in our website. We've also made a very, very aggressive approach with our employee referrals. Employee referrals make up a little over 30% of our overall hires. This past year, we relaunched the employee referral program and put a huge emphasis on our employees obviously tapping into their LinkedIn network. And this is something that we've seen some really impressive results just by doing this. We've had a 32% increase in our employee referral hires and 34% increase in employee participation. And this is really something that I would strongly suggest you all do. It's been highly effective for us, as you can see with the numbers, but this was really taking a very hands-on approach with our employees, going to training sessions, literally having computers outside the training sessions and showing them how to actually use the tool, updating their profiles, but really tapping into their network. So it's been highly effective for us. And quite frankly, across the board, you'll see from the results here that since we've been working with LinkedIn, we started off in 2008, and the numbers have just, and the success of our relationship has just continued to grow. So we're going to continue maximizing it. We look forward to obviously the new services that you're going to be coming out with, and we're very pleased to continue that relationship.
Great.
Open it up for questions.
So much more efficient than I was with the slides, so that's great. But yeah, we'd love to cut to Q&A. And if you will, if you could come up to the microphones, there's one in each aisle here.
One of the trends that you showed was employee referrals. The quality of hires was much lower for the 2015 trend, but what you just showed, that's pretty quality. And for our company, employee referrals are pretty good too. So that was just, I was curious where that data came from. for the 2015?
Yeah, it's a great question. So let me share what I've heard, and then I'll pass to Eileen for her perspective. We've heard a huge variety of experiences with referrals, right? Turns out the devil is in the detail of how you exactly architect the program, what incentives you create, and how people submit and share these referrals. So in some cases, we've seen programs that generate a lot of volume, but where the referrers don't have a lot of insight into the individual they're referring, right? For example, a salesperson referring an engineer who they might know socially, but they have zero insight into the technical skill set of that person relative to what the company needs. So I've heard a lot of variety out there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you've been effective.
We had, in the past, we would get the data dump. We would really have folks that would just submit anybody in. And over the years in utilizing LinkedIn and doing more employee outreach in the website and internal postings, we've been able to really focus on quality versus quantity. And it's really, we've seen a great increase in the quantity as well, or quality rather, through LinkedIn.
Thank you. Hi, I have 2 questions. Nice job, first of all. 2 questions. At KPMG, did you say you had a 32% increase in your employee referrals? Are you at like 40, or where are you at right now?
We're at, well, right now we're actually at 33%.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the second question I have is with your mobile application. So are you able to, have you integrated so that your candidates can mobilely apply?
Yes.
And directly into your ATS?
Yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thanks.
Hi. I had a question. I'm coming from a really small firm, and so I was wondering what the synergy is between the marketing departments, tech departments, and the talent acquisition group.
In my organization, we had some challenges with that. KPMG is a very conservative company, and trying to work those different groups, I actually ended up compiling everybody into my organization. So it's been very effective. I have a fantastic systems team. I have Lisa Ralston, who's in charge of our marketing and branding for the team. They work with the various groups, but we pretty much, you have to be so fast, and you have to keep up with the technology, and large corporations can have that bureaucracy where they just can't move as quickly, and they don't have that ability to move like you need to in the market that we're dealing with. So if you have that ability to do it, bring them all into the team and just make them busy.
Yeah, there's an idea for 2015 planning.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Get them all, bring them in.
Thank you, that was a great presentation. Eileen, can you talk a little bit about the work that you did to get LinkedIn profiles up to speed? You talked about having presentations and having laptops outside of a meeting room perhaps, and having people sort of come and look. Can you share a little bit more depth as to what that process looked like?
Very diverse. So we do have a group of now 5 resources that are fully deployed to employee referrals. And so it starts with new hires, it starts with when people come on board. We are going to, as I mentioned, training sessions. The team is going to town halls, so we can actually sit down and work with the recruiters. Our partner services recruiting team is sitting down with the partners, literally one-on-one, to work with them on increasing their pipeline and their profile, and leveraging, obviously, their contacts for our candidate pipeline. But it takes a lot of labor, a lot of hours, but obviously we're seeing the return that we need on the investment. Yeah.
Hi, thank you guys. Question I have is a stat that really stuck with me is that 76% of the job applicants viewed another employee's profile. What kind of training can you recommend or have you done for an employee base to get them excited about putting their brand out there and realizing that they truly are brand ambassadors?
Sure. I mean, it's a great question for us. You know, to some extent, we have relied on the social norms of the platform. I think making the profile richer has helped. So the ability for people to now upload their portfolio or examples of projects they've worked on has made things a lot, it's given people a reason to update their profile that is more exciting than just a new position, right? It's given people a reason to talk about what they're doing now. The other change we've seen is with the ability to publish posts now. A lot more folks are thinking about thought leadership as part of their personal platform, right? And I'm surprised how much I've heard at this conference about folks either identifying influencers within their company who are posting successfully or trying to stimulate influencers within their company to be thought leaders. So I think there's a really interesting kind of content creation story here where individual employees want to create content both for their own benefit, but also it reflects very well on the company. But I'd love to hear how you're thinking about it.
Well, and I just want to mention that there is a group of folks outside here that if you wanted to actually improve your profile, you can sit down and actually work with the LinkedIn professionals. So they would probably be a great resource to talk to you about what areas that you could obviously train your recruiters in. I think that would be a great source for you.
Question I had for you just around any kind of social output that maybe your employees would put out there as brand ambassadors. I come from a conservative company as well, and I'm just curious how involved your legal department is or isn't on what's being put out there.
Unfortunately, I can't bring the risk team into to my group. As I said, we don't really tweet that much. Our campus team does. I don't want to say that we spend a lot of time posting. We are going to do that. But, LinkedIn obviously has that capability, more white papers, those types of things. I have to say that we're probably a little bit behind in that area. Our focus has been really driving we hire about 5,000 people, professionals each year, and so we're trying to do many different efforts, and yes, it is quite challenging to work with within the risk group, because again, what's happening out there, the market's changing so quickly, technology is changing, they just can't keep up with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. I just wanted to ask a question around the employee referral program. It sounds like KPMG has done a lot to kind of encourage employees to leverage their external networks to find candidates who might be a fit for the firm, but I was just curious if you've done anything a little bit more inward facing around internal mobility and kind of placing people within the company in different roles.
Yes, we actually, we just rolled this out quite recently. We have a TAP program, which we call the Transition Assistance Program. KPMG is such a diverse organization. We hire a number of people off of campus for our audit work. And actually, we have close to 20% of our placements are actually internal hires. And we're very proud of that. We want to obviously improve that because it's obviously quite, from an investment standpoint, we don't want to have to go outside and recruit these folks. So we have actually established this TAP program where employees, we have resources that help the employees navigate through the organization. And it's new, but the employees are very excited about it. We've had internal virtual career fairs that have been very successful. It's really about letting the employees know that it's okay to make a move, that there isn't going to be negative impact if they raise their hand to say they want a different career. I actually have quite a few people in my own organization who were in the practice and then decided to actually try recruiting, and so it's definitely something that we support.
And just curious, what were some of the measures you took to ensure there was a culture shift in making sure that employees don't feel uncomfortable speaking to their manager, like some of the...
I can't say it's still perfect. I mean, it is definitely a change management effort. We did a lot of socializing with the partners. This was obviously something that they needed to be supportive of. And we got some great feedback from the employees on it. I mean, it was we'd seen before that people would say, well, I'm going to leave the firm. It was easier for me to job outside the firm than inside the firm. And so when you start sharing that with the leaders, it's just complete nonsense. You can do something about it, and we've put that to work. So nothing in particular to say measures, unfortunately. We'd love to have the partners be accountable for certain metric or what have you, but that hasn't happened.
Great, thank Thank you.
So I have one.
Yes.
Your team's made an impressive investment in the mobile experience. Any highlights or advice to share with the group on how you had that conversation and secured those resources and the commitment to do that?
You know, I think that it really wasn't a challenge for us, quite frankly. Luckily, our leadership, they're technically inclined. I think they understood. We did obviously tell them some of the results and did the research, but we really did have support. They wanted to do this. I think just for us, it was just making sure that our website, you know, not only had the apply capability, but everything was integrated into the system, LinkedIn, that. And I think for the folks that are looking at doing this, it's so important that everything is all in, you know, everything has to be moving in one umbrella. It has to be under the umbrella rather, and integrated. And the website was a huge undertaking, but it was something that leadership definitely saw that we needed to do.
Excellent.
Hi, I have a question.
Hi.
I'd be interested in knowing for both of your organizations who or what part of your organization owns the employment brand. Definitely agree with the importance and thought the trend was very interesting in terms of importance versus resources.
Do you want to take that? I would say we do, recruiting does, but also at the same time our marketing team, we work in collaboration with them.
Yeah, clearly we're a slightly unusual case in the sense that we all live and breathe these concepts every day. And I think LinkedIn is a fantastic experiment in what happens when everybody in the organization is involved in this. So the marketing team are always thinking about it. Even the sales team are thinking about it when they're out interacting with external partners. You know, how do my actions, how does the content that I distribute and how I present reflect on the kind of culture and the kind of company we are. So I think we're a fantastic and very interesting experiment in progress there. But I certainly would say that the need for brand alignment between marketing and the recruiting talent branding team is critical. And I think we've done a good job of making that connection very, very clear.
Hi. My question's for Eileen, and you had a slide up that had kind of the elements of your strategy: attract, engage, integrate, measure. And I was hoping you could expand on the measure piece and kind of what are some of those KPIs that you've developed to sort of ensure your effectiveness?
My team's probably rolling their eyes. I really do measure everything. It really is critical. My partners are obviously auditors, tax professionals. They need to see the numbers. I need to see the numbers. So we're looking at user experience, the recruiters, how they're utilizing the tools. Are they not utilizing it? So the usage, the number of hires that are coming in, the number of candidates are coming in. I didn't mention this, but basically 2% of our hires come through employment agencies, and I think that's kind of surprising in professional services. Our team really has to be out there in the marketplace and aggressively targeting because we can't rely on somebody else to help us with that. So the measures are really looking at it from what systems, what products, the cost, what type of candidate flows are coming in, what types of people we're getting from those avenues. So are they better for a tax recruit versus an advisory recruit, in-house, what have you. Hopefully I answered your question.
It did, thank you.
Thanks.
One follow-up on that. How many analysts or how big is the team that leads that program of measurement for you?
The measurement team, there's about 3 resources.
Okay. Yes. So substantial support for that.
Yes, definitely. Data is critical to managing your business and being ahead of it. So to your point.
All right, well, I think we're at time. But thank you very much, like I say, for making it up for the 9 a.m. slot. And really like to thank Eileen. This has been a fantastic conversation. I hope the rest of the day goes well.